Welcome to Legal Beagle.
Hey everyone, welcome into an all-new installment of Legal Beagle with Kristina Lyke. I'm your host, Mike Leon. Kristina here is a seasoned attorney, a constitutional advocate, and the founder of Lyke Law PLLC. She's been representing clients all across Michigan in criminal defense, family law, and civil rights matters, fighting to protect their freedom, their families, and their future. And in today's episode, we're tackling a very powerful topic, which is false accusations, and when lying to authorities becomes a crime. Kristina's going to break it all down and what it all means. Kristina, it's so good to see you. So let's just stay on and go right into the question. What does the court count as filing a false report in the state of Michigan?
Well, thank you, Mike, for having me today. And as to your first question, so Michigan, if you lie to the police, you have to have an intentional false statement. So it depends on if it's a misdemeanor or it's a felony. So if it's regarding a misdemeanor crime, so let's say it's a larceny under $200 or a domestic violence, which is a misdemeanor as well, and you lied to that person. So for instance, I lied and you're a police officer and I said, you know what? It was that other person that did it with the blue hair. And all of a sudden it was not that person. I made sure that I told you that that was that person, but actually I did know, and I had the intent to tell you that it was someone else besides that person. So because that's a misdemeanor and lying to the police, that would be actually a misdemeanor crime to lie to the police. But if I was lying about a felony, like a murder case or something of that nature, that would actually be a felony to lie to the police too. And that's a crime in the state of Michigan. So it's don't lie to the police.
Right. So even if charges aren't filed, though, it's still a crime to lie to police?
Well, you know, a lot of times people, like, they get stopped by the police and they'll ask you, hey, have you been drinking tonight? I mean, we tell them, keep your mouth shut. I mean, obviously, you have a right to keep your mouth shut. That's your Fifth Amendment. And you also have your right to have your attorney, right? Your Sixth Amendment. So it doesn't mean that it has to be an intentional act, and it has to be basically more malicious than just a lie to the police officers. Obviously, if you're lying about a crime that somebody did, or you're lying to obstruct justice, because, there might be, for instance, let's say that you moved a body and you moved it somewhere else in a murder crime, right? Murder situation. And you told them that you didn't move it and you obstructed justice that way, but you also lied to the police officers as well.
Good instance. There's some recent stories that have come out similar to that. How about, Kristina, if someone exaggerates in family court, like a situation? Because we've talked about family court in previous episodes. Can that become criminal?
Well, there is a lot of individuals in family law court that get on the stand and they'll testify, right? One of the things I always tell people is this: you're under oath, right, ma'am? You do understand that you're under oath. And sometimes that gets their attention just a little bit right there, because I've seen a lot of people mischaracterize things. And it's not just like a mistake or a misrepresentation. It's a flat out lie. And if anyone knows me, I cannot stand people lying. That is the one thing that you just don't do with me. But perjury, that's called perjury. And if anybody's seen an episode about perjury, it sticks in your head because that's a felony and you can be charged with that. A lot of times you don't get charged. I think that more often people should be charged with perjury, because of the fact is that it would stop the lying in the family law cases. Obviously, as a criminal defense attorney, I would have a little bit different statement on that. But with the family law, it's ridiculous to see how many times because even if you misrepresent the facts with the judge is going to look at you and not take anything credible. And you're hurting the other person. You're hurting like the dad who you're representing, or you're hurting the mom who you're representing. So you want to make sure that people are telling the truth on the stand.
I know Kristina does not like liars.
Yep.
So that's something to take away. So, Christina, let's stay on this though. You just touched on it. So I want to ask you the legal difference between a lie, a mistake, a misunderstanding is what?
So a lie is actually intentional. Let's say that I said that the person was had red hair, and I saw the person, and it was green, right? Um, Sometimes we ask little kids on the stand those questions to know a difference between the truth and a lie. If I say that this pen is blue and it's actually red, would that be the truth or a lie? And that's to see if their credibility. Sometimes I believe we should actually do that with adults on the stand as well, but we don't. But the difference between a lie and a mistake is the lie is willful, it's wanton, it's intentional. A mistake would be, oh, I heard that statement and it was a mistake because I repeated it to somebody. I repeated it to the court. That would be also considered hearsay too, but you relied on that statement and you just made a mistake because you thought, well, it's got to be true. So that's a mistake. Misunderstanding would be this, is that you thought you heard the question and you actually heard it incorrectly. And so you state the facts incorrectly. So that'd be like a misunderstanding.
So let me ask you then, how would you recommend, let's say someone's falsely accused, how would you recommend that person prove that the report about them was dishonest?
So if someone's falsely accused, I would actually, in order to prove the truthfulness, I would say you'd have to have videotape, but you want to have witnesses. The more people that are around you, those statements, they can, that shows the credibility of you. So if someone says something that's untruthful of you, and that's hard to take sometimes for an individual, that's a lie. Okay, well, how do we prove that it's a lie? All right, let's trace the steps back. So we look at, what did the person say? Was anybody there around that statement? Do we have any footage or any video to prove that? Do we have an investigator? Sometimes we hire private investigators to find out that this person was actually lying. Because whatever you do, lies can actually hurt people. And they can actually hurt them with their jobs. We've seen that a lot with Facebook. We've seen that a lot with cases. We've seen kids be taken away because of a lie. Those things, they have an effect on people's livelihood and also people's jobs, and also in crimes too. They can be criminally charged. You see these things a lot lately.
Christina, yeah, well then the question I guess begs is what are the penalties for filing a false police report?
Well, the penalties are this, is that you can go to jail, right? I mean, there's a misdemeanor and there's also a felony, like I said, stated before. So those are the two penalties. But there's also penalties for CPS, filing false reports to CPS. Unfortunately, we don't see that very often because we see the same person filing CPS report after CPS report. And they're just trying to get that other person not to have parenting time and try to get some CPS worker to believe them, which it's a crime. And maybe if the legislature looked at this a little bit more with open eyes and not trying to tell them what to do as their job, but sometimes if they went into the court, they would actually see how severely this affects not just the parent that's being lied about, but also the kid itself, because the kid is not going to be able to have that relationship with either that dad or mom because of these lies.
What about the civil consequences? Isn't there like defamation lawsuits as well?
There is civil consequences, especially with criminal. Like if I said something about some criminal thing about yourself or anyone out there, that's defamation per se. So we don't even. That's actually, it's a good facts to do a defamation claim, but you want to make sure the individual has some money pockets. And what I mean by that is, do they have any money? Sometimes it's good just to pursue that to stop. You can also do a cease and desist letter too as well. And sometimes you can actually, if the cease and desist letter does not work, then you can also do what is called a PPO, which is a non-domestic, and also you can do a domestic. So non-domestic, you'd have to actually have 2 or more incidences, which would be like on Facebook, lies about that individual.
You know, Kristina, I mentioned a moment ago that you don't like liars in jest, but I would love to know how do you balance calling out lies that you hear in the courtroom while staying professional in the courtroom?
Well, I'll tell you, sometimes you have to take a recess. Um, Especially if it's your client. I've never had my client lie, because this is one thing I will always tell my clients beforehand. Look, you tell me a story, and my professional ethics say that I have to correct you if you tell something different on the stand. So, and I don't want to do that because, one, it's going to get you in trouble. But two, even if you don't get in trouble, the court is not going to look at you any further. Like if you have to go in front of her again or him again for your credibility, it's going to hurt you and hurt you in the future with your case. And so let's make sure that you remind yourself of that. Now, if they do a mistake, like they say something mistakenly, or something didn't sound right, I will ask that question over again to them, or on break, I'll talk to them and ask them, did you know that you stated this? And so we'll correct it on the record, because I don't want the court to think that this individual is lying. But as to individuals on the opposite side, I actually state to them this. I say, you do realize that you took an oath today, correct? And you do understand that if you lie under oath, that is penalty for perjury. There's a penalty for perjury. And I'm straight faced with them, stern look, and all of a sudden, miraculously, I get the truth usually. It's kind of funny how to get that. And I do have a very stern face in court, so it's kind of a scare tactic, maybe. It's not what I consider a scare tactic. It's just that I don't think that we should reward people for lying. And I want to make sure that the court is actually listening to that at the same time period, because sometimes they might be looking at the demeanor of my client at the table, or because there's a lot of things going on in the courtroom at the same time. So I make sure that that's specifically known.
Stay tuned for a future episode for more on those tactics. Kristina, as we land the plane here on this episode, though, what's your message out there? People that are listening to this, maybe they feel like they've been targeted unfairly. What's your message to them? What's a piece of advice you would give to them?
Well, I say give us a call. We'd be more than happy to speak with you. But just remember this, even though you're targeted unfairly and you feel that way, always tell the truth yourself. Always make sure that you call an attorney before you go and do something that you'll regret.
Yeah. Kristina, thank you for the time and insights as always. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody out there listening to this installment of Legal Beagle. Look, lies can ruin lives. You don't have to stay silent. If you've been falsely accused or slandered, Kristina can help you fight back. Do me a favor, visit likelaw.com today to get the truth on your side. And speaking of don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, comment, or share the episode with someone who needs to hear it. As always, I'm Mike Leon. See everybody next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.